This is Governor Bobber, like good day, doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Good Friday evening, everyone. It is January 13th. We're almost halfway through the first month of 2023. Happy New Year, Don. You weren't on with us last week. You were busy with other stuff.
Happy New Year to you too.
And it's been a crazy week. It started off kind of slow, but I tell you, it ended with a bang. Top secret. Joe Biden lifting top secret documents on his way out of the White House when he was vice president. Unlike President Trump, he can't declassify because he was only vice president. And I mean, they're in his garage. I mean, what an idiot this guy is. I mean, which, by the way, this makes it all that much harder for the DOJ to indict Trump.
Yeah, everything's going to be much tougher now because I mean, we had that. You have Biden in that 60 Minutes interview. Being asked about the Mar-a-Lago thing, and he says, well, it's irresponsible to have those documents and do that. And now we have documents in two different locations.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely,
the Penn Biden Center, the think tank. So, I mean, I'm sorry, I don't know about you, Dwight, but I find the idea of a think tank and Joe Biden to be kind of an oxymoron.
Yes, it's a still joke. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Granted, Biden was probably in better shape, 10 years ago or whatever, but I mean, it's just, I had no idea this Penn Biden Center even existed, and that's something I was paying attention to. But yeah, they're trying to make this case. I mean, Karine Jean-Pierre, the spokeswoman, I mean, she's trying to make this case that this is inadvertent. That's what they're going to find. They're one thing that bothers me. I mean, CNN, as I watch it when I'm at the gym, they're covering this story.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that really bothers me more than anything else about the way they report this is that they put up this graphic, which says, Trump documents, and it says, 325 documents, blah, 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 obstructed justice doesn't cooperate, Biden, like 10 documents, they're cooperating, and everything like this. Now, during the discussions, they may bring up the point that you brought up, is that as a vice president, he has no ability to declassify files. But in the graphic, every time they throw up this graphic, that I think is one of the key points, and they always leave that out of the graphic.
So
it's it's that, once again, that the media kind of like, okay, we've got to find a way to deflect this and not make it look as bad for Joe Biden as it is. But I think, it's hard for the media to wrap their hands around this thing and say, how do you prosecute, Trump after this? How do you justify the fact that you had files in two different locations, including your garage at your home? Hello, and they bristle, right? I mean, Karine Jean-Pierre, she's like,
I told you, Steve, or Peter, she's like very condescending, with Peter Ducey. Was it yesterday's briefing where she goes, Peter, you heard it too. We were all there. It's kind of like, come on.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I think part of that, is just too with her is just that she's willing to give Ducey a little bit, but she also knows that to a certain extent it plays to her advantage to kind of cut him off and try to make him the boogeyman, the bad guy, because he's Fox News. He's obviously going to be biased. So you don't have to treat him. You don't have to treat him overly fairly. You look like you're giving him some room to ask some questions, but as soon as he starts to get into the wrong territory, you try to flip the script on him. But she's like, oh, we're being totally transparent. The president answered 2 questions about this. Oh, wow. 2 questions. Wow. That's great, Joe. It's like you answered 2 questions. Are you saying also that he doesn't have the capability to answer any more questions? That's all they prepped him for, was that here are your answers. Don't answer any more than 2 questions.
Well, he's got a. It's also ice cream time for him too. So his ice cream is still melting in the White House kitchen. So he's got to get back to his what is it? Peanut brittle ice cream. What is he like? Butter pecan. That's his favorite.
Ooh, butter pecan. Okay, I'll give
I
Joe
like butter pecan. I like butter pecan too, but it's like I just have not had it since he's been president. Just because. But
Yeah,
I like almond better though. Butter almond tastes better.
I think Dwight. I think the last time I really had a scoop of ice cream was when you had that birthday party for me.
No, I think it may have been the ice cream social because I don't think we did ice cream. We just had cake at your birthday party.
There was no. Are you sure we didn't do ice cream?
Well, we had an ice cream social at the same place too, so it may have been at both.
Maybe so. Okay, it's been a long time. I don't eat. The thing is now I wind up eating like frozen yogurt from Sam's or Costco or
Mm-hmm.
something like that, or
Mm-hmm.
like the McFlurry,
Mm-hmm.
at McDonald's. So I really, going and getting a scoop of ice cream has just become almost. I have no ice cream in my freezer, and that's something I used to have all the time. At least one,
Mm-hmm.
at least one quart of it or
Oh, ice
something.
cream's $5 for a half gallon. For a brick,
Yeah,
it's
you
five
got to
dollars.
wait for a sale, but I can't. I'm not going to eat that stuff fast enough to make it worthwhile anyway. I
You
think
know,
I like
yeah.
in smaller doses, but yeah, I mean, this whole idea. I mean, you were mentioning before we went on the air about the CBS releasing this. There is some speculation too, though. This whole thing has been strange, because once again they said they're transparent and they let everybody know, as soon as they kind of discovered this. But they discovered this stuff. They've known about this for like 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
So this is not being transparent, and this is not letting everybody know right away. I mean, KJP got into this whole thing with Ed O'Keefe from CBS News, trying to press her. She's incompetent to begin with. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, which is fine for me because the longer she stays in that position, it just is never going to get any better for the Biden
Who would have
administration.
thought Jen Psaki would look every day? KJP is there. Corinne Jean Pierre. Well, long as she's there. Old Jen Psaki, Peppermint Patty. Looks all the better.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, there are a lot of people who are detractors of Jen Psaki, but in the end, she was actually pretty competent for that role. She was
Mm-hmm.
fine in that role, and so you don't have to agree with her, but boy,
Mm-hmm.
I tell you, I mean, it is night and day, really, with Psaki, Jen Psaki versus Karine Jean-Pierre at this point.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt the longer she stays in there, the more this is how obvious this is. This is the affirmative action choice, right? Black,
Mm-hmm.
female, gay, right?
Mm-hmm.
She checks off the big boxes.
All the
And
boxes. Yep.
her partner is Suzanne Malveaux from CNN, who's actually leading.
Is that Julian Malveau's daughter?
I don't know.
Remember, she was on PBS. She was buddies with Armstrong, and she'd be on his show a lot.
Yeah,
Julian
yeah.
Malveaux.
I know. I never have looked up the Malveaux connection between that, because how many Malveaux do you think they're going to be?
I mean, there aren't
right?
that many.
Yeah. So yeah, so it's interesting, but she's just cannot handle this, and they're interestingly enough, there was Don Lemon of all people on this CNN early start program. They had Chuck Schumer on, and even Lemon was trying to press Schumer about this thing, and Schumer's response is like, well, he says, maybe we could have said something about this before, but there's a special prosecutor now who's looking into this. It doesn't really mean.
Yeah. And what's really funny is, if you look at it, if you look at any of the other talking head morning news shows, news in quotes, as Chris Plant would say, these guys, they're not really talking about the big issues. They're not talking about the border crisis. They're not talking. They're still focused on the speaker's election from last week. And
Well,
congratulations.
I mean, yeah. I mean, here's the thing: is that if you're a Republican, because I'm a Republican, you're really loving this, because I mean, it's this is showing complete malfeasance and irresponsibility and hypocrisy on the point of Joe Biden administration on this whole thing, and that he said, this is a national security issue as well. On top of that, the Penn Biden Center, what was it? Andrew McCarthy said $54 million went into the Penn Biden Center from China. Yeah, exactly. Why would China care about Joe Biden and all of this think tank?
Yeah.
You know, why would they put money in there unless there is some kind of potential quid pro quo?
Yeah, I mean, little Joey B's granddaughter is working for the Chicoms, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, it just it brings up all these things. That's like, I'm not a conspiracy guy, but boy, I tell you, something's here smells a whole lot on this, and that's not good at all.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at all this, it is just it's bad for them. But the speaker's election, which we won what 15 rounds, 15 votes, and it
15
was
times the charm.
it was front and center news. It was all the news media could talk about. To me, it was playing right. It was playing right into the hands of the liberals and the Democrats and the liberal media and all of this. And this was a chance where the Democrats were trying to make some inroads, talking about Republicans and their disarray. How look at the Democrats. We are very orderly and we're very much together. But they're trying to beat the drum on that and anything that the Republicans are going to try to do in Congress. And that's totally off the front page. That's totally off any news thing.
Yeah, and you know what else is also off the front page?
It's now all on this because this is a big deal. When you've made as big a deal as you have with the Trump documents and the classified documents, which he has a right to declassify, and then you look at Biden, who has documents and he had no legal authority to declassify. You've got a problem there.
Yeah.
And at least Trump has some memorandum about wanting to declassify documents. As you said, how do you prosecute Donald Trump after all of this? You can't. You absolutely cannot.
And this is also in the other thing. This also took another Joe Biden story off the front burners, which is this one right here. Joey B on vacation while Buffalo's under snow.
Yeah, you love that story, don't you?
Yeah, it's like
he was in the Virgin Islands, right?
Yeah, Virgin Islands. I was so desperately looking for some picture of him having some ice cream in the Virgin Islands. To go to use as my Joe Biden in the Virgin Islands picture, but still, it took that story off the front page. And what do you call it? It also is basically the incompetence of Mayor Pete Buttigieg, Transportation Secretary's incompetence is not even surfacing because of this story.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of attention paid to that, especially after the FAA issue the other day. But I mean, I
didn't understand what was that. What was that all about? The FAA just decided to screw with people's travel plans.
Well, yeah, I mean, they have this NOTAM system, which is a notification that they have to have for safety check, and it tells pilots like about runway conditions, like runway's not operating. Maybe there's some bird issue, all kinds of different things, and it can be quite extensive. And it's a safety issue for the pilots. If you're already in the air, there's nothing they could do about it. But they haven't, they apparently haven't issued a ground stop like this since.
Yeah, and that was the funniest thing. It's 5 a.m. They go, oh, the FAA does not want to issue a ground stop. It's all up to individual airlines. Really, is that what the Biden Transportation Department FAA wants to do?
I guess the worst. I guess the worst hit group were the ones on the East Coast because their flights were only in the process of beginning to take off.
Yeah.
So they got stopped. My wife was supposed to fly back from Utah that day, and so her flight out of Utah was delayed. And it threw everything off. It was in the end. It didn't wind up being all that bad, but she ran into people who had to fly standby because of other connection issues and stuff like that. After that Southwest meltdown over the holidays, this was not a good look. And you mentioned Pete Buttigieg. I mean, the thing is that what is this guy as transportation secretary? All this is just this administration is showing the incompetence of people. This is what happens when you basically are buying off your competition and saying, hey, if you drop out of the race or you don't push it, whatever you fought, well, if I win, we're going to get you a cabinet position, no matter what your qualifications are. And Pete
Mhm.
Buttigieg has gotten, nothing. I mean, what was it? Mayor of South Bend, Indiana.
Yep, he was known as Pothole Pete there,
Yeah, I
but
mean,
the stellar infrastructure there.
what gives him the expertise to oversee our transportation system in this country?
He had per capita more potholes in East Bend or was he Mayor of Bloomington? Was it East Bend or Bloomington?
I thought it was I thought it was I thought it was South Bend. Was it?
South Bend? Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah,
So
but he
yeah,
had more potholes in his town per capita than anywhere else in the great state of Ohio. In
yeah,
Indiana, I'm sorry,
and
Indiana.
he tends not to surface until well after the issue has been
Well, let's
out
see.
there.
Let's revisit the illustrious career of our Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg. We have the problem in 2021 of supply chains, freighters sitting off the docks and nothing happening. Whereas Pete, nowhere to be found because he's on paternity leave. You know, does he understand this is a full-time job? I mean, like, you can break away. I'm sure you can afford a nanny and so on and help to take care of your child. And I'm sure that's who's taking care of the child now, anyways. But he's over there. And then we have the strike in September. Where is Mayor Pete? He's in Lisbon or Barcelona, somewhere on the Iberian Peninsula. He's there. He was nowhere to be seen during the Christmas debacle with all the airlines and then when we finally hear him, he wants to investigate Southwest Airlines. I'm like, I wonder if it's because the CEO spoke out against Biden's mask mandates. Is that why you're going to investigate Southwest? I still fly Southwest. I was actually, when I went to Florida, I took American instead of Southwest because I just couldn't get a flight on Southwest because I waited too long to book a flight and I got one on American, which I thought was fine, I hate flying American though, but it is what it is. You got to do what you got to do to get to Florida, right? And to get to Florida, it's 35 degrees there, but that's another story. I think so yeah. I mean, he wants to go after Southwest, but what about the other airlines that had issues too? And what did they do with all the COVID money? Well, something. What did all the other airlines do with the COVID money? I mean, it's not just Southwest that was having problems around Christmas time. It was everyone. Because Southwest has more flights, and they don't use hubs; they use spokes, as I've been told, is what it's called. Um, that's one of the reasons why they were more affected by this than other airlines. And I mean, Southwest is a great company, and I'm sure they'll straighten this stuff out on their own. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
using antiquated
yeah. I
software.
mean, look, the CEO, is pledging to, they've hired an outside consulting firm to look at the issue. I mean, you're a techie guy. I mean, apparently the software they
It's
used for
antiquated.
splicers. This was something that's it's quite old, but it's
Yeah.
off the shelf. It wasn't even custom. They've been modifying it, but it wasn't really designed. They didn't design it on their own or anything like that. They took something and they tried to modify it, but there's limitations to what you can do
Yeah.
with that stuff. So and then
It's
it
kind of like
basically
it's kind of like if you can use Microsoft Access to build a donor database if you want. But then you got to hire somebody to customize that donor database so you can put in notes and stuff like that and have a form and all the fancy stuff to go into there. As you remember, I think Don Pearl was his name. He did the AIM. He could do that
you
Joan
remember
Yo
that name.
database. He did Joan Yo's fundraising database. He did all the customization. And Joan would always come back, and say, "Oh, I don't like it. The form doesn't look right," and whatever. But you got to do a lot of customization, and they'll get it right. I mean, Southwest. I would bet on Southwest. They're not going anywhere, frankly.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
look, I mean, they're a huge airline. I mean,
Mhm.
this may have been where they saw the flaw in their system is that it was a major meltdown
And
for
we
them,
also had
no
that
doubt.
snowstorm. We also had that Christmas week snowstorm.
Yeah, I mean but they just because of the way they fly and because of these software issues, they could not recover anywhere near as fast as the other airlines. When they're flying point to point, they don't have the hubs. it was much more difficult for them to do a lot of things. There'll probably be some changes that'll be made down the line. Southwest is doing everything they can to, for loyalty. They've awarded a lot of these people 25,000 points, which is worth something. They're
And actually,
reimbursing.
this weekend they had a great $49 special. Go anywhere for 3 days, $49
Yeah, I
round
mean
trip.
they still have their sales and things like that. People will get over it. They'll especially if they've been made whole at least financially, they'll get over it and they'll give them they'll understand the complications of this. It was Christmas was the airtime was a horrible travel season, one of the worst I've ever seen.
Yeah,
And what do when Mother Nature gets in there, kind of all bets are off. You're lucky to get
exactly.
where you're going. And
Exactly.
so
It's times like that where you want to just, well, basically what you want to do is you want to go somewhere, you actually, my trick is if you want to fly over the holidays, you fly on Christmas Day or you fly 2 weeks before Christmas or a week before Christmas at the latest. Don't even try to fly Christmas week.
yeah, I mean, I think it's this may get people to look at long range weather forecasts for Christmas and then make their travel plans accordingly, which may mean that they're going to arrive several days earlier than they normally would to try to,
Hmm.
just in case something goes wrong, they have a cushion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And for
I
those who
feel
go to Florida, who wouldn't want to spend a few extra days in Florida?
yeah. I mean, I feel for people who missed Christmas with their family. I mean,
Hmm.
but this happens. I mean, and I don't know. I mean, I'm glad I don't have to travel. There's no really reason for me to travel
Hmm.
over the holidays. My attitude is like, look, if my kids want to come and see us, that's fine. But I'm not getting on a plane to go see them for Christmas and deal with all that crap. It's
They
just too
have to
much.
come to the mountain. The mountain's not going to go to them.
Well, they should. Look, I mean, should you not respect your elders?
Absolutely.
Everything,
Absolutely.
everything, everything that we've done for our children.
Right?
Why should they
Yeah.
not come and see us?
I
You
did.
know?
I went down and went visited my mom in Jupiter.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
yeah, I mean, and going to Florida. I mean, that's not a bad thing. I mean, I don't know how many different friends of mine on Facebook I saw because that,
mhm.
Southwest, they so many flights were canceled. They just rented a car. They drove their own
Yeah.
car down to
I was
Florida.
actually if I did not find a flight on Southwest, I would have just driven down. And it's not that bad of a drive, Once you pass Richmond, or you do the horseshoe bypass, actually, is what I like to do because that way it adds a few minutes to your trip, but something. It's so much easier on that horseshoe than it is going through Richmond City because you never know what's going to happen there. And but what's funny is after you pass Richmond, Petersburg, you just fly. The miles really go. I mean, like when we drive down to North Carolina for their events, we go there and it's basically just fly. Once we pass Petersburg, and
Yeah.
since we don't, and since the last I think 2 times we drove down there, we decided to take 95 and cut across to Raleigh, opposed to taking 85 down to Raleigh because 85 had a lot of construction on it, and I think it still does. But yeah, it's one of those things. The roads are just getting worse and worse. I mean, they're adding bike lanes. By the way, I'm the only candidate that was railing against bike lanes in Montgomery County. By the way, now all of a sudden, after the elections, everyone's all discovered. Oh, bike lanes bad. Yeah, and I've been talking about those stupid bike lanes on Old Georgetown Road for months. So I think it's thank you, welcome to the party, guys. Oh, just welcome to the party. And
Yeah, I'm trying.
nobody.
So where I don't know where those lanes are exactly. Are they
Oh,
running? Are they running
oh,
from the Pike down or?
no, they're not yet, unless they've done that. But they're running basically from the Georgetown Square Shopping Center, where the giant food is over there.
Okay. Yeah.
It's running from there all the way to downtown Bethesda.
Really?
It
Huh.
used to be only just the inside the Beltway, and by the way, you've got the Beltway and you got the bike lane right there, right? Bikers are you're just asking for some accident to happen where some semi comes through and they can't stop fast enough, and a biker arrogantly just blows through the red light. They're known to do. I tell you, a lot of these bikers who bike on the road are the most inconsiderate people I've ever met. They blow through stop signs, blow through red lights. They don't even, they take an entire car lane when they should be on the side. It's just really bad. I mean, they're just bad, bad, bad. People. Just get in a car. We're not China.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty decent stretch of road to go from that distance, and I'm thinking like,
Yeah.
are there really enough bikers to justify this?
No, it's always empty. And one night I couldn't get to my phone fast enough. I'm driving, and I see a biker that's not in the bike lane. They're out in the middle lane. I'm like, what is it? Too many bikes in the bike lane? That's why I got to use the car lanes? No, the bike lane was empty. It's like, really? And by the time I got my phone, the guy had turned off somewhere,
This this is where we should probably have dash cams. We can just cover we can just cover all
Yes.
kinds of stuff.
Oh, yeah. And actually, not only that, after I got back, we went to one of the best pizza places in Baltimore County, Garrett Zahner's endorsed place, Pizza John's in Essex, Maryland. On the way back, there's a bus system that I think it's called Lux Bus or something like that. The driver must have been drunk. He was like zipping around the lanes, like just cutting people off, forcing them off. And I'm like, somebody needs to report this guy. Yeah, there's people like that just drive badly, and they have no, they really don't have any consideration of other people on the road. But it's, it is what it is, I suppose.
This thought just crossed my mind, which is just out of the blue here. So now that you're like the third vice chair, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does this mean are you going to try to go to more Lincoln Day dinners than you already do?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I would like to go to as many as I can. The ones I can't, I will send a table, and they can do what they could either fill the table, keep the money for something else. Like I do that with Garrett County all the time. It's just so hard to get out there because their dinners are usually like Thursday nights, Wednesday nights, and it's like just tough to do those types of things. If it was a Friday, I could go there, stay over, leave Saturday, and come back.
Yeah,
that's why I like.
I'm thinking like if you had to go down to like Queen Anne's or something like that, would you actually drive all the way down there?
Yeah, I drive to Queen Anne's. That's not that bad. Queen Anne's also, I could just stay at a hotel and come back. I mean, Queen Anne's actually is not as bad as you'd think it is. The drive, now that the construction of the Bay Bridge is done, because when Governor Ehrlich spoke in Salisbury, I drove him all the way to Salisbury. We drove back the same night, and like Salisbury, I usually stay the night over there in Salisbury and come back the next day because why drive? But Gov wanted to come back, so we made it back. We actually made good time. I was back home by. What I love about the Shore County dinners, they do them on Saturdays. They start the dinners around 6. The dinner's over by 8. So I mean, the Gov and I, we were out the door by 8 o'clock, and then we were in Annapolis by 9ish, and I was home by 10 easily. And I'm just advocating for more Ocean City conventions, more conventions in Ocean City.
Yeah, I know.
And let me also congratulate Adam Wood. He is the new executive director of the Maryland GOP. Welcome aboard, Adam. Welcome to the circus.
So is that something that I haven't really paid that close attention? That was something that was kind of expected with the new chair would be
Yeah, and also Corinne's moving on too. So
they're choosing their What's Corinne's going? She was going to do something else.
Yeah, she's got an education pack that she's running now.
Oh, okay.
It's called Maps Online, Maps or something like that. Corinne, if you're watching, just message me the name of your pack, and she's got a conference in March about education issues and all that. And we'll have more details about that on the Montgomery County Republican Club website when it's available. Excuse me. But yeah. So and Jason is now working for the caucus, the Senate caucus. So he has moved on to bigger and better things. I have a feeling he's not doing this because he's probably busy working right now. It's Friday night.
Well, yeah. I mean, they're in session now, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he's got. What is that? Is that 90 days roughly or something?
90 days too many. And then you have. But what's funny? The state legislature, like the Republican Party conventions, I think after a couple of hours on the first day, somebody motioned to adjourn, and they adjourned. which I don't think would be a bad thing. But, and they can't come back until next year. And it's we've got also in the other stuff that happened this past week. I think is really more. I mean, honestly, I really we've got Larry Hogan gave a great farewell address the other night. 8 years of Hogan government. No tax increase, no fees increase. He took away the fees on the Easy Pass, no toll increases.
Yeah, he lowered the
But
tolls.
yeah, I mean, everyone hold on. Westmore is going to probably double or triple the tolls because I'll say it's been 10 years because Martin O'Malley didn't get a toll increase in on the last 2 years. So tighten your belts, everyone. The Westmore era is going to be more taxes. That's what the more stands for. More
Yeah, I
taxes.
saw a clip of an interview he was doing with the and WRC, the Channel 4 News,
Mm-hmm.
and he was talking about how really, you have to kind of be this moderate in order to win. He says that's how did he win 2 terms is by being kind of right in the middle of things, right? I mean,
Yeah.
which is true.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you cannot be the Dan Cox type of Republican and win statewide Maryland. It's just not going to happen if you actually are honest with yourself.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so, but he it's almost like he was sending a little bit of a kind of a warning shot to Wes Moore, Governor Moore, in the sense that saying that you kind of have to be that middle guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now Moore's coming in there; they're going to control all branches of government at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they could easily run roughshod over us like the Democrats have in the past. We could see tax increases and other things like that. But
Yeah,
Hogan,
and Mark
I think,
Elric has already been eyeing the rainy day fund. He wants to use that to build schools in Montgomery County. Which is I mean, come on. The rainy day fund, why don't we keep it there for a real emergency, not for your little pet projects?
well, they better. I mean, the counties and states and everything have, they have to watch out what they're doing there because, what was it? It wasn't that long ago that Gavin Newsom was bragging about this huge surplus in California.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then he just had to painfully announce that this coming fiscal year for them, they're projecting about a $22.5 million, billion-dollar deficit. So it was a huge reversal. And Texas has got what, $37.2 billion surplus or whatever
Mm-hmm.
coming. But California, I mean, Newsom actually kind of gave a nod to their progressive tax system
Mm-hmm.
as being part of the reason. What's happened in the last year? Big tech under attack, tech stocks crashing,
Mm-hmm.
cratering. Tech billionaires not as rich. You're not going to get the stock options exercised like you did before. People are
Yeah.
underwater with that. So their tax revenue shortfall. And yet last year, what they're thinking, Democrats as being Democrats in a state like California where they control all levers of government. They're like, oh yeah, we can spend more money and we'll give people a small tax rebate, refund and everything like that. And everything's fine. And now all of a sudden, it's like, we've got a deficit and now we're
Mm-hmm.
going to have to cut back. So then now you got Democrats complaining in California. It's like, oh no, you can't cut these services. Well, they expanded them, Medicaid for like everybody, and all these kinds of
Mm-hmm.
things. But they're not going to have the money to pay for it going forward because they don't have any idea how to finance anything and be fiscally responsible.
Mm-hmm. And there's a friend of mine. He does basically like a blog, a YouTube channel on places around the country. His name is Nick. He's from California, but he lives in North Carolina or someplace like that now. But he has been doing a series on it. He went back to Southern California where he grew up, and he's been doing a series like 10, 15 days. And I tell you, California is not even like, if you remember in '96, the Republicans had their convention out there. And there was a mall that had a Starbucks that Matthew and I used to go to get coffee from that Starbucks. That's now in another guy that does these Dead Mall series. That is in that series, the Dead Mall series. uh, and the vagrancy, the homelessness, right? I mean, is rampant. It looks like a third world country. You go to California, it does look like a third world country now. It's kind of like
Yeah,
you
I
go
mean,
to.
the LA mayor, the former representative, now Mayor Karen Bass, has said that that's like one of her top priority issues is to, try to figure out a solution to the homeless problem. Gavin Newsom has been trying to pour money into that issue, and
Mhm.
that hasn't been working very well. They've got a lot of problems there. They don't know what to do, um, with that problem. And politically, it's a little tricky because the liberals are supposed to be very benevolent. They're supposed to be very, you know, charitable towards these people and very sympathetic to what they're going through.
Oh yeah.
But at the same point in time, homelessness is, it's killing business. It's killing the state of California.
Hmm. And it's really bad. I mean, this is the state was the state where everybody wanted to live. California, everybody wanted to be there because California, it's you had sunshine, palm trees. Everybody had a job. There was an episode of one of my favorite shows, All in the Family, where Archie Bunker was going to sell his house in Queens and move to California. And boy, I bet he was pretty smart afterwards when he decided not to move. But I mean, everybody, even I wanted to live in Orange County, and thank God I didn't do that because that'd be worse than living in Maryland, frankly. Uh, and it's crazy, it is just insane what happened to California. It's really saddening. It's very it was a very very affluent state. You don't expect that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, but
Uh,
California has been that model for liberal politics and all these kinds of crazy
yeah,
laws. Like that. When Martin O'Malley was in office, it seemed like every time California passed some kind of new law or something like that,
hmm
Martin O'Malley thought, okay, yeah, we ought to do that here in Maryland. And to me, it kept Maryland was looking a lot like
hmm
the East Coast version of California.
yeah,
Thank goodness we had Larry Hogan in there to kind of muck up the works a little bit and slow all that
yeah.
down.
I mean,
Under
yeah, and
West
one of
Point,
these,
we're going to get, but you
yeah,
know, Larry Hogan, I realize, and I've said this, a ton of times. I know we've
mhm.
got a lot of our Republican friends who have a
Well,
lot
like
of,
I mean, here's the thing. You remember we went down to North Carolina where the Republicans controlled both houses? They're saying the same thing about Governor McCrory, what our Republicans are saying about um, Larry Hogan. And their biggest complaint, he doesn't veto any bills. And then I go, oh, do the Democrats have both houses? They go, no, the Republicans, then why are you sending him bad bills? If you don't send him something, why are you sending him something expecting him to veto it? And it's kind of like when President Bush was president, he didn't want to veto his party's bills, so he never vetoed anything. That's how we got the bridge to nowhere. And here, let me just play this little clip of him going back to his hometown of California. Hold on one second. This is his hometown.
At night, it's chaotic. It's like a zombie apocalypse video game. If you've been watching my channel, you know I hardly ever drive around at night. For one, it's really hard to see anything without a really good camera, but it's also really dangerous. And in San Bernardino, you don't know who's going to shoot at you at night. People are just crazy here. They'll shoot their gun just to shoot it. You don't even have to be in a bad part of town to risk your life at night here. It's everywhere. And you don't really stop at a red light at night in San Bernardino. I'll tell you that. But the camera doesn't really capture what I saw and heard and felt during my night drives here. Driving around, you see ugly, you see desperation, lack of hope, lack of decency, lack of purpose. One night, cruising around, I thought, you know what? I think my former hometown might be the worst place in the country right now. I mean, it's the second most dangerous place in the country. Look at this. It's even worse here than Detroit, Memphis, Baton Rouge, and Oakland. You know, the real hellholes in the U.S.
Hey, look, Washington D.C. is
The cops
168
are
on that list.
really slow to respond to all the crime, and the fire department is too. And that's despite the fact that they are paid very well here, especially when they retire. It's kind of a California thing, pay people huge pensions after they retire. I do feel bad for the teachers here. They have to work in terrible conditions. The kids have really bad home lives, there's drugs everywhere, and a lot of them just don't give a shit about school. San Bernardino.
And this is and he was talking about how California, and here's the thing: San Bernardino was not that, did not look like that years ago. Even like when we went, even I have friends who live in California who tell me like even parts of the nicer parts of like what's that area, Riverside in Anaheim. Even that's not a safe place anymore. Riverside was not. It was not. It was no Orange. It was no Anaheim. It was no Newport. Not Newport. Yeah. What's the fancy part of Orange County? But anyways, people know where that is. Uh, but you still felt safe in Riverside. But now Riverside's a hellhole too, and and that is what these big city. We should take every Democrat big city mayor who's inherited a halfway decent city to these towns. This is what liberal policies will bring you. Look what happened to D.C. We had Mayor Anthony Brown who used to bang his fist on the table screaming he's a liberal, liberal, liberal Democrat because people were saying he was more like a Republican. Adrian Fenty, they primaried him out because they were actually doing stuff that's actually beneficial. When Adrian Fenty and Tony Williams were mayor of D.C., the murder rate was not what it is today. You didn't have crime in Northwest by the old AIM offices. Did you see that they had a shooting there not too long ago, a couple nights ago? And that's like you may as well be in Chevy Chase there. And
You mean that hotel on Connecticut Avenue across from the old office?
yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
And then also, and remember, and also people are being mugged at that metro station there too. The giant food that I don't know if it's still there. It's still there, but they complain about how they've seen an increase in shoplifting and stuff like that in that store. So I remember Joe Golden used to talk about how the Gap shut down because of all the shoplifting that went on in there, and that was in 1996 when it wasn't this bad.
Yeah. No, I mean that. Yeah, you can only imagine. I mean that's the other thing is that, we have all this, you know, all the shoplifting going on, we're, higher than it has been before. It's pretty sad when you see stores starting to they start to lock up more and more merchandise,
That's
even
one thing
just
he was talking about there in California in his town. He was showing how that at Ralph's they lock up toothpaste, they lock up candy. I mean, really? I mean, is it gotten that bad? I mean, even here nowadays, like depending where you go, like if you go to say certain CVS's in certain areas, you'll have they'll basically put those little clamps on razor blades, and actually, I think they're doing it in a lot of other places too. But that, and you're seeing stuff and you're seeing more and more empty shelves too. That's another thing we're seeing, and I think part of the problem is the shoplifting is also a byproduct. I think a little bit. You got the shoplifters who are shoplifting for the sake of shoplifting. Then you got the shoplifters who are shoplifting because they can't afford the food, you know, kind of like Les Mis scenario. But I mean, I don't really cut them any slack either. But I can rationalize with that. But there's other avenues, I mean, food pantries. They're talking about how they're running out of stuff, and it's all because of the Joe Biden's failed Democrat agenda. In Maryland, where we're kind of in a bubble because we got a lot of government, we've got a lot of government employees, contractors that are working for the federal government, and we're fairly safe where we are. So I think the big thing for us is we're safe for now, but the crime is spilling over into Montgomery County. We're seeing that now. It's spilling into Bethesda. Carjackings are up. It's Silver Spring, Kensington, Potomac. Carjackings are up there. It's like crime is up. It's like what is, and this is a direct result of cashless bail, soft on crime policies of the left's agenda, the war on law and order, frankly.
Yeah, there's a lot of those factors that play in there. I mean, I know that when I've been at the gym and I've been watching a couple of things that, like NBC4 has reported at least twice in the last week of airbag thefts out of apartment parking lots.
Yeah.
Right. Those apartment parking lots. A lot of people, a lot of cars there. No security really. Smash a window and then go and then remove the airbag. It doesn't take that long for them to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, being on Next Door, which covers a fairly wide area, actually. I was surprised how many different neighborhoods.
Yeah, I tell you, I got on Next Door and I thought it was useless because there was nothing about my neighborhood. They're always talking about stuff that's happening like miles and miles away from me.
but for this discussion, I mean, what I'm seeing that I'm seeing some of those things. I mean, people will talk about cars being broken into and robbed overnight that are sitting in their driveway, all kinds of stuff. I mean, I know there were some issues down at King Farm, which I thought was supposed to be a relatively.
I know that's supposed to be like pretty.
Supposed to be a safe area, but they've had some car break-ins and thefts and things like this. And I'm thinking, like, this just gives me kind of an idea of what's going on. Every time I see one of those reports, whether or not it's somewhere, within 2 miles of me, or even something that's 5 or 6 miles away, I keep thinking like, I'm thankful I live in a neighborhood that has been very safe, and we've had really actually since most of the teenagers that grew up, we don't have that many kids left in the neighborhood. I think the neighborhood's gotten safer because the teenagers don't have their friends coming by and taking a baseball bat and knocking off the mailboxes and doing stupid stuff. We haven't had any things like this for years now.
Yeah, you're right, Dave. You're absolutely right. And that's the other thing. It's like I mean, I've noticed one thing I have been doing that I used to never do. Before I go to bed, I make sure I basically hit the remote on my car to make sure the doors are locked. And I used to never do that. I make sure my garage door is shut. I mean, there's nothing in the garage. Somebody could do me a favor and steal everything out of the garage.
Yeah, but now, Dwight, you can now qualify as a secure site for classified documents by locking.
That is true. But I have gone to bed with my garage door wide open.
I have done that by accident, yes.
And nobody is. I tell you, sometimes I feel like, come on, take all this stuff. I've got old paint cans. You can take those. You can take the old paint cans. You can take the old stuff, the boxes of junk, the empty boxes. You can steal those. I don't care. Take them away. I don't want to have to carry them to the curb. But I mean, I do notice. I mean, I've gone to bed with the front door unlocked. Actually, if you recall, we had a certain Centigrade member who threatened a lot of people. I forgot to lock that door that night.
Well, look, I mean, I went to pick up my wife from the airport on Wednesday night, so we didn't get home. She came, she got in a little late, but so I don't think we actually walked in the door until like 10 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And I got up the next morning to go to the gym. So, it's like leaving the house at 4:30-ish or whatever it was. And I noticed the front door was unlocked. Neither one of us had locked the door.
Well, I can top that. When I was younger, when I was living with my folks, I would forget. I have actually once forgot the keys in the door, and I just walked in and the keys still hanging.
Boy, I mean, that was a thing that. How many? I don't even know how many times that has happened to me in my life. But I don't have a key. I don't have a key lock on my front door. Is all a keypad now, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, we've kind of moved up in the world a little bit, but yeah, there have been a few times when in the old days you kind of forget and you leave the keys in your front door.
Yeah, those keys have your car keys.
Yeah, it's got everything. You lose that. You lose that. You lose a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And nowadays it's our phones. If we lose our phones, we lose everything. But
Yeah,
I mean, that's that's the kind of the times we're living in now. Like where you do think twice. About stuff. You do make sure the storm doors, or do they even call them storm doors anymore? Security doors, I suppose, is what they're called now. Because storm doors used to be able to lift the screen, and in the summertime you could have the screen and the glass could be dropped down and stuff like that. Now they're all called security doors because you can't take the glass out, and there's no screen in there. You know, but I mean, I make sure the security doors are locked sometimes. You know, although I get irritated when I have to unlock the security doors in the morning going out because I'm so used to not locking them. Uh, but it's a lot of that stuff is it's all and it's been the last 2 years is when this has really spiked. You see the murder rate. I mean, today Richard Montgomery High School, weren't they on lockdown today? They were on
I
lockdown at
did.
Richard
I
Montgomery.
saw something on next door. People were like, "What's going on at Richard Montgomery? Why are they on
Yeah,
lockdown?"
exactly. I mean, it's what's going on. It's like it is really, really. We're just living in some really crazy times right now. Things will get better. It will get better because remember, I mean, you and I remember when DC was the murder capital of the world. They didn't have enough snow plows. They put the snow plow they tied it to a garbage truck. We remember the days in DC when they couldn't plow streets and stuff like that. And things got better. Now it's gone back the other way, but it'll get better. I mean, when I was working for you, Chinatown was like almost like a no-go zone. You didn't really want to go to Chinatown after dark. And now it's like the center of life.
So I'm look. You mentioned Richard Montgomery. So Bethesda Beat had said that they lifted the lockdown uh, at about around 2 p.m. I'm seeing it was a dispute between students from Richard Montgomery and a neighboring school, and somebody thought they had brandished a gun, so that's why they locked it down, but they didn't find the
So
gun.
it's crazy. And then we got the crisis at the border. That is like a ticking time bomb, by the way.
But Joe Biden went down there to visit the border finally.
It was a stopover. It's so he could have a little snack before he goes on to Mexico.
Well, I don't know about you, but I thought that was, once again, pretty shameful because he goes down there and they basically sanitize part of the city so that he never sees any of the thousands of homeless
Well,
people that have been
and
camping out in downtown El Paso.
And this is a typical Democrat plan. When the Democrats had their convention in New York City, they moved the homeless from Madison Square Garden, moved them all the way out to the upper part, Queens, so they would be out of sight. So when the Democrat conventioneers would go through, they would never see the blight of New York City. And I mean, they had it when Rudy Giuliani was the mayor of New York City. It's not like it was in shambles, frankly. You
Yeah.
know, and they did that. They did the same thing when they had their convention in Los Angeles. They moved all the homeless camps away from the convention center.
And it's not like, I mean, the thing is that, so you do that. Do you really think you're going to get away with this? Because, it's one thing about 20 years ago before we really had much of an internet and social, we didn't really have much in the way of social media and things like this. But, and almost everybody's carrying a smartphone, right? So between all of these things now that it's like, you can't really do that. But even the news media, even CNN is pretty much camped out down there in El Paso, and even they can't hide the fact that over here are thousands of people in downtown El Paso, that are homeless and that are illegal immigrants and all this stuff that are waiting for things. And Joe Biden never saw them. They cleaned up part of it. They built this barrier in essence, and so when Biden goes down there, it doesn't look like there's a problem. He doesn't see
Did he
the
even
real
visit
problem.
one of the detention centers while there? I didn't catch that. If he went into the detention centers to see what used to be cages are now daycare facilities for the kids. Same cages, but they throw in some coloring books. They call it a daycare facility. Did he even go there? No, I don't think he did. And then
I'm not quite sure what exactly he visited, but he did. He didn't see what's really happening down there. So it's a
and,
lot more lip
and then he goes
service.
to Mexico, and what's he talking about? The environment. He's talking about and then you got people like Ellen DeGeneres. Mother Nature's mad at us. Well, I think Californians need this rain that's happening. I mean, they need this rain. They've been under a drought. I bet you won't see too many wildfires next summer.
Yeah, I mean California. I mean that's pretty dicey. I mean the rain is going to be good for them in the long term because the reservoirs can fill back up again. They get a little bit of a buffer there. They're not it hasn't gone to 100% yet on that, but I think they're in the 70s now, which is not bad, but still not where they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there's been some deaths and there's been a lot of destruction because the grounds are saturated. The wildfires have kind of they've wiped out the vegetation on the hillsides, so there's nothing to hold back the mudslides and stuff like that. Lots of problems that are being caused by this. They've got a brief respite, but I think it's supposed to get more rain on top of that. I mean Utah has received enough snow that my son and my brother-in-law are both sick and tired of the snow because they've just had more than they bargained for this winter. But that's good for Utah because higher elevations, more snow in the mountains, more snowpack. As it melts off, that's good for them because that whole western region has had a drought problem. And Arizona almost acts as though there isn't a drought in the sense of we're just going to keep building homes and
Yeah.
we think the water will be there.
Yeah. And I mean, actually, you might find this funny, but Atlanta has a real water crisis. Atlanta, it's growing, it's building. They're actually headed toward because there's no real water source other than that place out in. There's a lake in Tennessee where the water is pumped in, and Atlanta's going to have some water problems at some point.
Well, that kind of thing is a problem for states that don't really have a natural way of getting water when they're relying on others. I mean, that's part of Arizona's problem too, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and anybody in a farming area where feds say, well, here's the allocation per acre feet of water based on our predictions, and it requires flow into Lake Mead and all kinds of stuff. And if it's not there, some states lose out or they get cut back a lot, and then it only exacerbates the problem for them in the long run.
Very true. Very true, and it's just bad. These people, these environmental alarmists are going off like chickens with their heads cut off. And that's what Pete Buttigieg. That's his priority. It's not the airport. It's not the infrastructure. His priority is the cutting greenhouse gases. That is his priority. Pete Buttigieg. He doesn't care about any of this stuff that's going on. I mean, he thinks airplanes are bad because they spew CO2. Yeah.
But they all fly airplanes to get around. So.
But as Ariana Huffington said, well, they were going there anyways.
Yeah.
Ariana Huffington, what is she doing now?
You can't have Zoom Davos.
Yeah, exactly. Well, nobody there is going to get COVID,
Yeah.
But we're coming close to the end. Oh wow, we're right at 8:00.
Yeah, probably time to wrap up, I guess.
Yeah, final thoughts time. Don, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Okay, so R.I.P. Sierra Mist. I can't say I was a huge fan of Sierra Mist. I mean, I grew up on Sprite and those kinds of things since I'm on my.
But Sierra Mist, that's a Pepsi product, right? Sierra Mist, that's a Pepsi product. They've tried so many lemon lime drinks. I mean, why don't they just buy 7-Up and call it a day? They had Slice. Remember Slice?
Yeah.
And you can get Slice in a bunch of different flavors: orange, cherry cola, lemon lime, and that's actually what the original Slice was. The lemon lime Slice, the competitor to Sprite. Then that didn't work out. Then they had Sierra Mist, and that didn't work out. And now they got something else. What's it called now? The new thing,
Starry.
Star Starry.
Starry.
I think if they called it Starro, more people would buy it just because of the name, the villain,
I,
the Teen Titans villain.
I don't even I don't know I don't know where they came up with that name, but I'm like Starry. I don't it I mean, Slice and Sierra Mist, I think those are much better names than
Yes, they are.
Starry.
Yeah. But don't worry, in a few years, Starry is going to be gone, and they'll come up with something else. Pepsi is. I mean, here's the thing: Pepsi is now is Pepsi owns Yum Brands now too, right? Or is Yum
Yeah,
Brands been
well, Yum,
spun off?
I think Yum is now a separate company.
Yeah, but it's like a Pepsi spin-off, right? It used to
Right.
be like a Pepsi subsidiary. You
Yeah.
know, I do think it's funny that now Burger King now serves Coke products also, just like McDonald's. Because remember, Burger King and Taco Bell and those places used to all be Pepsi products. Taco Bell is still Pepsi products, but Burger King and Pizza Hut are still Coke products. And
Yeah, but Pepsi doesn't have that make your own soda machine,
no,
so
they don't. Because Coke has the
that's
patent on that.
I'll give, I mean, I don't drink a lot of soda, but I'll give Coke credit that the
Yeah.
fact that you've got that machine where you can say, for me it'd be like lemonade. I can say, "Oh, I
Yep.
want the peach lemonade or the
Yep.
strawberry lemonade or something like that." I like that much better. I mean, I noticed I went to Wendy's because the Wendy's over here by me remodeled a couple
Hmm.
months ago,
Hmm.
and so I walked in the other day and I'm like, oh, okay, wow. So for the first time ever in that Wendy's, they took the soda from behind the counter where, the cashier always took care of it, and they have one of those machines. And it's like, this is good.
Hmm.
This gives customers a lot more choice and everything like that.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I think that's an innovation. That's a good thing for them because you see that. I mean, I see that same machine at California Tortilla. I mean, you mentioned
Yep.
Burger King. I think
District Tacos has it now.
I think that's a big
District Tac
plus.
Yeah, District Tacos used to have one of those foo sodas, sodas they make on their own and stuff like that. But now they have that. Moe's Southwest Grill has that. It's great. I think all the stuff that you can get, and it's I like those machines because you can get a Fanta Zero, you can get a cherry vanilla Coke, which they don't sell anymore because of supply chain stuff. And yeah, I do like that. Yeah, so the Wendy's by you has that machine. That's good to know.
Yep. Yeah, it's like, they totally remodeled the place. I'm like, okay, they took out the televisions. It looks a lot nicer. It looks a lot cleaner in there. So it's like it's good.
So do they sell mozzarella sticks separately, or do they only have the mozzarella sticks for the chicken mozzarella sandwich? It's basically like a chicken parmesan sandwich where they put mozzarella sticks on it.
I don't know. I mean, the funny thing that you just mentioned that though, just because um, I went to Checkers tonight to go get a couple of burgers,
Hmm.
and I decided to order the mozzarella sticks because I know Young had never had those before
Hmm.
at Checkers, so she liked those.
Hmm.
Not everybody has good mozzarella sticks, and you have to have
Yes.
you've got to have good marinara sauce on top of that.
Hmm. Yep.
So, but I figure if it passes Young's muster, I'm okay.
Yeah. You know who had the best mozzarella sticks? I think is over at Looney's Pub in Maple Lawn in Howard County. They call them mozzarella moons or something because they're in the shape of a crescent moon. But those are really good. You can taste the freshness of the mozzarella. It's not like some places that take frozen mozzarella, like and do that.
So what Young really likes above all else is, she's okay. She likes fries, but she really likes onion rings.
Yeah.
And trying to find anybody who sells onion rings and sells good onion rings as a challenge on a fast food
Well,
basis.
let me give you a place. I was just there. Pizza John's has really good onion rings. And Garrett Zana recommended those, so we got those
Yeah, but
as our
I
after.
gotta have it. I gotta have it near me.
Oh, okay. Well,
See,
maybe
we used
Bradley
to
could.
we used to eat the onion rings at Burger King once in a while, right?
Yeah.
And then I took Young to Habit Burger, which was a big step up
Yeah.
for onion rings. And I think the ones, and then I took her also to Burger Fi, and I think out of Burger Fi 1 and Habit Burger 2, but we're still looking around for others.
I tell you, another good place around. Jerry's used to have good onion rings, but they're not in business anymore, right? Jerry's Pizza.
Right.
But there's
Because what she likes to see is that it's actually the real
real,
onion. You get a
yeah,
big, and then like that. Like Burger King is like this little thing like this big.
yeah.
And
It's like they take a shallot.
it's heavily breaded. It doesn't really taste like an onion ring.
Yeah. I tell you, you know what she might also like. You go to an Indian restaurant, they got these onion pakoras, which are basically like you got a spicy breading around the onions, and they just throw them out loose, sort of like onion straws, almost like. I don't know if you've ever had onion straws. They're pretty good. And I've been told there's another Indian restaurant by you called Woodland, which is really good. It's over on the corner of Quince Orchard, and it's right by. It's right in this. It's like right in the same area that the other Madras Palace is, but it's on the out. You got to go straight to the light, and it's in that building. It's where that credit union is, SEIU or SCU, whatever credit union building is. They're in that building.
Okay, I'll have to look around for that then.
I think that used to be a Provident Bank years ago.
We've seen a lot of changes in banks in the area too.
Yes, I know. It's like there's no more Suburban or Crestar or First American or First Maryland, or many old banks are gone.
That's right.
Chevy Chase may have been the last local bank to hold out, I think.
Probably
Before they were
so.
bought by.
I mean, they had a lot of branches.
Yeah, now they don't. Capital One has been shutting down a lot of the branches.
But I mean, I don't really blame them. I mean, that's why I tweeted, a week or two ago. This had been kind of hitting me as I was watching some television. I'm like, a couple of these, crime dramas, and hostages being taken in a bank lobby, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, 20 years ago,
Yeah.
maybe, okay, but I go to a bank every once in a while, and the branches are smaller now than they used to be anyway, right? The size of them. But I don't know if I've ever seen more than about 5 people in a bank branch.
Yeah.
Right? You don't, if you rob a bank, you don't see a lot of people. So the people, like the writers in Hollywood, have got to get over this whole thing about you're going to have 20 or 30 hostages in a bank, because it's not happening.
They should change the bank to a Chipotle, and that's where the hostages are, because everyone's inside a Chipotle.
Yeah, you've got to go to you're right. You actually have to go to one of these restaurant places where people are lined up or something like that. That Chick-fil-A. There'll be people in there all the time, or something like that.
But I tell you this though, I did like going into the bank, because back when I used to like Capital One would have like they'd put out a spread sometimes when they were Chevy Chase, actually. Like you'd have to go there on Fridays. They'd have like coffee and donuts and cookies and stuff like that. And now it's like and also remember, you used to only be able to take $300 or $600 out on an ATM. Now you can go up to $5,000 on an ATM, I think.
Yeah, I mean, after COVID, you're not going to see too much of anything where there's going to be food out and anything like that. And
nobody uses cash anymore either. That's another thing. Nobody really uses cash.
I don't even know how much cash is in my wallet, but I'm pretty sure it's less than $10.
Yeah,
because
I used to like carrying cash, and then I switched to one of those the fancy wallets, where basically it's like I feel I could have invented it, because I actually did. My wallet went through the washer, so you couldn't use it. So I took all my cards and everything, wrapped it around a rubber band, and walked around. And I go this, and then I found a wallet where it did the same thing, and that's what I use now. But I'm thinking like, I could have invented this. I think I sort of did with the rubber band.
Yeah, and I haven't really done it that much, but I mean, I have Apple Pay on my phone.
Yeah.
I mean, it just which is great, because if you load your credit cards on there, then you can just pay without having to whip out your credit card because it's already stored in there, and it's safe and secure. So there's so many ways of doing that. We definitely have become much, and there are places that won't take cash anymore anyway,
Yeah.
right?
Well, it's funny. There was years ago, when the dollar coins came out. I went to someplace. It was someplace in Montgomery Mall, the eatery. They would not accept dollar coins because they had no place to put them in the register of the dollar coins.
Yeah, I'm not
Huh.
surprised.
So yeah. Any other final thoughts?
Yeah, just a couple things here. I put it down here. I mean, rest in peace to Lisa Marie Presley. So she was only
Yeah.
54. Currently had cardiac arrest and passed away. Uh,
Hmm.
I believe isn't I didn't I meant to look it up. Isn't her father's birthday this month?
Uh, I think so. Could be.
So I thought it was in January. Oh, there it is. By matter of fact, so it was January 8th. So it just happened. I mean,
Yeah.
so she died a couple of days after 2 or 3 days after her
Hmm.
father's birthday there. Yeah.
There you go, David. He knew it.
Yeah. So that's kind of spooky in a sense, but
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a shame. I mean, she was married 4 times and had a son who had committed suicide a few years ago. Um,
And she was married to Michael Jackson
Married to Michael Jackson. That was
in
weird.
1994.
So I don't know. I mean, I feel my thoughts and prayers go out to her
Hmm.
surviving children and everything like that. 54 is too young, and
Yeah, very young.
everything like that. And I mean, she had just been out at the Golden Globes just the other night, so that was definitely quite a shock there. And I just saw today a little before the show that Robbie Bachman of Bachman Turner Overdrive, one of my favorite bands, passed away.
Hmm.
So this is something
Featured
that
prominently on a Simpsons episode where they go to the state fair. BTO is there in the Simpsons episode where they go to the state fair and they buy a horse.
yeah, I've watched very few Simpsons episodes in my life, though I did watch the Simpsons movie once. So
Yeah. Well, who
and I
got me into I used to not watch The Simpsons, but Matt got me into watching The Simpsons back when I was working for you back in the 90s. And that show is still on and it's still going strong. You know.
it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. But maybe I'll have to listen to some BTO tonight before I go to bed or something like that. I mean, that was part of my youth. I mean, I
Also,
loved it when I was younger. So.
Adam Rich died too this week or last week.
Yeah, Adam
One of the
Rich, eight
weeks.
is enough. That's right. Yeah,
Yeah, and
I guess
Code
he
Red
had a
was the
lot
other
of.
show he had.
I guess he had a lot of addiction problems and some other
Yeah.
issues too. But he was
So is that what did he OD or
wasn't
did he just
wasn't
die
he
of natural
wasn't
causes?
he was like 54 as well too, wasn't he? Something like that.
Yeah, 54, 55, yeah.
Yeah, he was pretty
He was
young.
older
So.
than, yeah. It's funny now that, I'm 50, I'll be 51 this July. And it's funny seeing celebrities that are like my age or close to my age that are, like kicking the bucket, so to speak.
Well, just we all face mortality. Our
Yeah,
mortality at some point in time. Don't know when our time is up.
yeah.
Hopefully, everybody remembers that. Life is precious. You should savor every
Yeah.
moment and make the most of it.
I
So
think Phyllis Diller's still around with us. Remember her? She used to push a man off ranges and stuff like that. Phyllis Diller.
Phyllis Diller died.
Did she die? Uh,
If not, she'd be older than dirt.
yeah.
She died August 20. She died 10 years, almost 11 years ago.
Okay. Okay.
Here's the problem for us too is that we have all those people that we remember when we were younger,
Yeah.
and you can't remember which ones, all the ones that have
It's
died.
like Angela Lansbury. Like.
Yeah, there's another
What
one
do you
here.
call?
As David was saying, yeah,
Oh,
Knievel. Another, once again, part of a celebrity family, right? Evil
I
Knievel,
know.
something that we knew
Yeah.
as a kid.
I mean, did he like try to jump the Grand Canyon or something like that? Or did he die like something else? Because he
He
didn't he
was doing.
jump
He
the
was
Grand
doing
Canyon?
that. Was it Snake? He was doing the one in Idaho. It was like Snake River Canyon or stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, Yeah, we've had all these things, and Jeff Beck, the guitarist. I mean, so
Yeah.
Death then hasn't just come in threes. It's come. There's been we've now mentioned like five.
Yeah. And one thing we
So,
didn't talk about is the poor oppression Prince Harry felt in England. He was so
okay,
oppressed that he had to flee and come to America. I thought that was hilarious. Poor Prince Harry.
all
It
right.
must be
So
tough.
this whole thing with Harry and Meghan are driving me nuts. Okay, and here's my final thing about this too, though. It's just so I went ahead and subscribed or decided to follow Megyn Kelly's podcast.
Oh.
Okay, and I like her in general. I mean, she's pretty good, right? She's smart,
Mhm.
but the problem I'm having in the 10 days or whatever 2 weeks that I've subscribed to this is that she has this obsession with Harry and Meghan.
Mhm.
I mean, she hates them, but it's hard to get by a show without her having a decent chunk of time talking about this. Now, I understand, his book just came out, and there's a lot of garbage that they're spewing about the Royals, and I have no love lost really for the Royals in general.
Mhm.
I'm not a big Royal follower or anything like that. I
But
don't
they're the
know.
closest thing we have to a Klingon first family.
But Harry and Meghan is like, I am so sick and tired of them, and I'm like, the more attention you give them,
Yeah.
the more it drives me crazy. I'm almost at the point where I'm going to unfollow the podcast if I have to, if I see anything more in the show description
No, but
about.
I mean, you think Megyn Kelly would have more substance
She
than
is.
the Royals?
They're talking about stuff, and I mean, I agree with her because it's just the ridiculousness of the charges and accusations, and I think
Hmm.
some of the outright lies of Meghan Markle.
No, yeah. I mean, it's funny. It's like, what do you call? By the way, last week's show we went to about 8:45 because after 8 o'clock we kind of started talking about pizza places because
Yeah,
I spared you from that chat group,
yeah.
the
Thank
Maryland
you,
Pizza Club.
because we're getting to the point in time where I'm going to be fading out here pretty soon.
But yeah, I just think it's funny how everybody is oppressed. This Prince Harry was oppressed, living in palaces, having servants wait on him hand and foot, being
There
driven
was some
anywhere.
weird thing too about how his father grabbed his nose and played that game. I've got your nose. What you do a lot of times when you're a kid. You
Yeah,
look at
yeah,
it,
yeah.
and he said something about some deformity he's had to live with the rest of his life. And I'm like, I have to go back and look at this because this whole thing sounds so stupid, but
Yeah,
it's so hairy.
yeah. I mean, it's like I'm so, I was hoping for 60. If it was old Mike Wallace, this would be right up there with the Westmoreland interview. Instead of Mike Wallace making stuff up, the guest was making stuff up.
I
Yeah.
swear, Dwight, you're like the Westmoreland expert now.
But what's funny is I was a little taken aback when I saw that AIM postcard. I
Yeah, I don't know.
mean, I
I
kind of
read.
understand the message, but if you don't know the message, just driving around, you see this picture and you see AIM plastered underneath it, you think it's something different.
Well,
But
as you know, I mean, it's not the organization my father
no,
founded and was passionately part of. I mean, they've turned into a completely different animal. I don't recognize it anymore.
yeah. Pretty soon it's gonna be tabloid journalism.
Yeah, so that's why I decided I'm gonna revive my little media blog on the AIA
Mhm.
website. So it's
By the way, is what do you call it? Is that still, or is what was I thinking? Uh, is do they still do the AIM report at all? Like, do they do
well,
that, or is it?
I was in charge of that, and then when they canned me, that was the end of it. The guy
Oh,
the guy in charge didn't like the report to begin with. He wanted to spend his money on those postcards and other things. He thought that was more effective.
yeah, I've seen organizations like this, and they're not long in the tooth, frankly. I hate to say it, but yeah. I mean, MRC is cleaning their clock on media stuff, by the way. And you know how we
Well,
feel about MRC. We love Brett
well, I
Bozell.
mean, yeah, but I mean, AIM is dealing with a bunch of garbage stuff. I mean, they're talking about media that nobody pays attention to. That's not really the media. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, at least they're not talking about black helicopters and how the Chinese are coming up. But any other final thoughts?
Nope. Turn it over to you to wrap
Yeah,
everything up.
I just discovered something today, and I was having way too much fun. It's called Chat GPT. It's an AI. You just tell it to write something; it will write everything for you. I actually did 3 articles using Chat GPT for the Montgomery County Republican Club website. The article about President Warren Harding, the article about Larry Hogan, and the downsides of mass transit, all written by Chat GPT and AI. And I
So,
was having a lot. I was like a kid with a new toy with this.
so you are we actually publishing that or?
Yeah, it's on the website right now. You can go there. The
So,
Montgomery County
did you,
Republic.
identify it as being AI?
No, not yet, because I need to create an account for an AI. But here, I'll show you real quick. Let me share my screen. Warren Harding. This is AI, and this is AI. And this is great. Watch this. Right about. Oh, they have never heard of Redorifine. Okay. Give me somebody famous. I don't know. Charo. Look at that.
It's funny.
Yeah, I mean, this is like great. It's
I did. I
and
did.
actually,
I think I set up an OpenAI account, but I haven't done anything with it.
and you know they've got AIs now that can build entire websites. You just tell it, "Hey, I'm looking for a website for this," and it'll actually do everything for you. But one of the reasons I want to talk about ChatGPT is this is a great source for central committees, or if you've got a newsletter, you need a quick article. You'll write some, then you can add to it, and you know, just like the Larry Hogan and the Warren Hardy want to add a little bit to it. But the bulk of the stuff is, you know, and it combs the internet. You know, like I could say, you know, write about Lex
Yeah, I mean,
Luthor.
yeah, I mean, it's got an incredible ability to do things, but I think, yeah, you have to go over there and make sure that to 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 put it into something that actually sounds like the author
Yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
you know.
exactly. Like the Hogan piece, I added some stuff in the beginning and some stuff at the end. But it was great. It gave me all of Hogan's accomplishments and all that to it in there. It put it all into place, and this is great. I mean, this is something that's great for, let's say, if you're building a website about, let's say, you're a photographer and you want to just you can say write about interesting digital DSLRs and SLRs, or tell me some tricks you could do using you know, and it'll do all the research for you, and you put it all together, and you get the little blurb you need. And that's what I like about it. It's like for creating content, you can create. There's a guy that wrote a book in a weekend using Chat AI or Chat GPT, I should say, and it's great. I think everybody should check it out.
While it's still free.
Yes, well, it's still free. I'd actually. I mean, I've seen it in action. I'd actually pay for it. You know, it's you know. I tell you, I wanted to know about Governor McKeldin, and it basically, I said, you know, tell me about Governor Ted McKeldin, and then it said, and then I said, what were his accomplishments as governor? What is he best known for? What did he do before he was governor? And he's one of our few. He's probably the only Maryland governor that went on to being a mayor after he was governor. He was mayor of Baltimore after he was governor of Maryland. And it's he may have been the last Republican governor of Baltimore, probably. I mean, mayor of Baltimore, I should say. But it's really great. It's great to check it out. And the Howard County Republican Club, along with the Howard County Women's Club and the Howard County Center, is doing a Happy Hour at Union Jacks in Columbia on the 31st. Come on down and attend. I will be there. A lot of other prominent folks will be there. Dan Kramer will be there. You meet a lot of good fellow. It's a good networking opportunity for Republicans. And if you're new, if you're a Republican, if you're a shy Republican, come on out. We don't bite. You get involved. Learn about us. Don't just vote for us. Get involved. Grab a hammer and help us build the party. And my last final thought. I got to meet astronaut Mike Massiano this week. Great guy. You know how you go to events and you got the celebrity there. They'll take 2 or 3 questions, then walk away and not even do pictures. This guy took every question. He hung around and did pictures with everyone that wanted a picture. He was there for like 2 hours after he talked, doing pictures, which I thought was awesome.
That's terrific.
Yeah. So thank you, everyone. Good night, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
Goodbye.